Hello. Good morning. Happy Memorial Day, folks. We have celebratory holiday gathering today here on the KSR Rapid Reaction. Not so rapid, but the circumstances were what they were. A late night announcement from Malachi Moreno. Got things to do and fitting it into the holiday for today. But man, we're very excited about this. Malachi Moreno announces that he will be withdrawing from the NBA draft and returning to the Kentucky Wildcats, a decision that I think Mark Pope thought was happening, said that we're building the entire roster around you. We need you. We love you. Please, for all that is good in the world, please come back. Jack Pilgrim here with Zach Gagan and Jacob Polachek. Zach, your immediate reaction to the big news that Malachi Moreno, the 7-footer, is back in Lexington.
Yeah, same reaction as most Kentucky fans. This was a needed move for Mark Pope. They kind of had to have Malachi Moreno back in the fold. I was like purposely not, every time I did a show or radio bit or anything, was just purposely not talking about what would happen if Malachi didn't come back, because I didn't want to kind of envision that world, because it would have been, I mean, could you have said it would have been like a disaster at that point? Like that would have been the doomsday scenario if he's kept his name in the NBA, because then you're kind of just picking, like looking at the scraps of the bottom of the barrel for whatever's left over as a potential replacement piece. Like, is Big Frank from Washington, I don't think that's the role he thought was going to be his coming in here. Reese Potter, is he ready to take that on? So you don't have to worry about any of those conversations now. You just have a potentially an NBA caliber, or at least NBA, soon to be NBA caliber center manning down your front court to pair with Zoom Diallo and Alex Wilkins in the back court to kind of make everything flow a little bit better. You've got a rim protector. You've got a guy who can grab a bunch of rebounds, all SEC potential. So at least from just all the roster construction standpoint and just making sure that Kentucky has a decent front court next season, you kind of had to have it, Malachi, come back. And yes, it's massive news for Kentucky and for Mark Pope. And it was great that I'm sure Malachi got a bunch of great feedback. Jack, I'm sure you have more on actually all that stuff and how it went, but that's only going to help him as well going into next season. He's going to know exactly what he needs to get better at. We already kind of know, but it's probably nice to have NBA folks say it from a different perspective and give it to him in a different way. But yeah, you had to have him back, and now that you do, you've got a potential All-SEC guy running the center spot, and that's very important. That's very big, because 7-footers that are as good as Malachi are in high priority right now, and they cost a lot of money. So good job from Malachi for going through all that and testing his options, and even better job for Mark Pope to, well, he kind of got lucky, I guess, or however you want to frame it, but good for him. He's got his starting center back.
A couple notes. Chad Zero wants a shout out. He's said it like 72 times in the chat, so shout out. Chad Zero. Honest answers on how nervous y'all were, Jason Carter. Your thoughts on that, Jacob? How nervous were you in the final home stretch of this, knowing just how serious NBA teams were about him? Because I know your intel matched mine, that this was not just smoke and mirrors to try to drive up the leverage, that there was a lot of interest there at the end of the first round and early second to snag Malachi in a part of the draft that just weakens tremendously. Like once we get past the top 15, top 20-ish picks, teams have to draft somebody, and Malachi was ramping up interest very, very quickly from those teams.
Yeah, I never was too nervous, but that's mainly because we got a decision on May 24th. Just having it this early, most of my nerves would have been on that 26th, 27th. If he stayed in that late, that's when I would have gotten nervous, thinking, okay, maybe there's something to this. I knew that the NBA interest was real. But it always made sense, I think, for both sides for him to come back. He had good NBA draft stock. He could have potentially been a first rounder, but he came back, had a good year at Kentucky, and is in a weaker 2027 draft. I think it's a win for both sides. So it made sense for him to come back. But if this would have gone a little longer, a couple more days, that's when I would have really started sweating.
So, Zach, on that note, I heard via sources on Sunday morning that the sides were pretty far apart, that there was still highly motivated to, they had a draft workout scheduled on Tuesday with the Los Angeles Lakers, was going to fly all the way back across the country to LA, and that would have pushed it all the way up to the deadline. And that really, Mark Pope, to his credit, kind of, one of their requests was like, hey, just give him some space, let him go through this process, and don't push, don't try, whatever. And Mark Pope had kind of started to re-engage and just like, hey, we're getting up to the deadline. Where are we standing? And they were pretty serious about kind of running the distance and letting this thing go. And then somewhere over the course of the next several hours, they re-engaged more seriously, and it turned into a re-signed, renegotiated contract that I think all parties involved were very proud of and excited for. But I think a big part of what the NBA feedback was like, man, we love how you approach the Ruben Chinyelu matchups against Florida. We love how you went heads up against Felix Okpara. How come the edge and tenacity you brought in those games wasn't kind of a 36-game sample? Like, how come we didn't see it every single game? I think it was the approach and edge and constant physicality, get the motor where it needs to be, get the conditioning where it needs to be, but all things that, you know, they could have fixed on their own, like NBA strength and conditioning programs. They all kind of said, well, I mean, we could kind of fine tune that stuff here in the NBA. So that's where the intrigue came from. A lot of the, you know, the things that they want Malachi to fix over the next year, they kind of believed on themselves. Like, hey, we could get a steal here at 27, and, you know, work on a lot of things that we believe that he are fixable and correctable here, and sooner rather than later. So that's where a lot of the intrigue came from. But I think just the promise, you know, there was never a guarantee. No guarantee ever came from an NBA team. No promises. It kind of just was left up to, they felt good that he'd be able to sneak in at the end of the first round, but never felt totally confident that there was something waiting there for him, and couldn't leave it up to chance. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, where he believes that he's going to be a lottery pick next year. Like, I do think that this is going to be his last year at Kentucky. I think it's going to be a two-and-done scenario. He was already close enough that just needs a little bit more to get across the threshold in a very weak 2027 draft. So what does that look like in your eyes, Zach? What does a, you know, sophomore leap to lottery status for Malachi Moreno look like?
Well, it kind of goes off some of the stuff you were saying. I'm sure the scouts were telling him too, like, you know, towards the end of the season, especially when the postseason ramped up, it felt like he was kind of like maybe losing his legs a little bit. You know, he only played 22.6 minutes a game. So maybe you got to get the conditioning up. You got to be able to be fighting longer, more aggressively. You got to be able to do that for longer stints, especially as the season continues and progresses. You know, the layup percentage, 44% or whatever it was last season, that was a big talking point. That's going to be a big thing for him going into next season. Getting the explosiveness up, you want to be able to get a little bit more on your rebounding and on your jumps to get rebounds and blocks, just small things like that. And, you know, I know Jacob has to get here soon, so I'll let him talk in a second. But I was never worried about Malachi not killing it with the pre-draft process, because if you've ever talked to him, if you've ever talked to this kid, like, you know that he was just going to knock all the interviews and stuff out of the park. So I'm sure that played a role in him, like, being up on these draft boards as well, because I think people just like him and they can see the potential. They know that he's dedicated to all this. So I'm sure he had to weigh the balance of, do I want to go with the 27th pick and sit on a bench for a team for a year, or would I rather come back to Kentucky, make more money, maybe not as good of an experience being at Kentucky compared to an NBA team in terms of like the coaching and the strength conditioning, all that, but you're going to get more playing opportunity, more playing time, and I'm sure that might have outweighed it. And you don't have to play as many games to make a bunch more money at Kentucky. And then, like you said, yes, potential lottery status next season. So I think the small things that he needs to improve on, he will improve on, because he's done it the last 3 years since he's been a junior in high school. He's progressively gotten a little bit better. So I do see that continuing on as a sophomore. And if he is just 20% better next season than he was this past season, I think you've got a really, really good player. And hopefully he can even go beyond that percentage.
Jacob, we'll get you out of here with this. Big news coming up. You're waiting on Milan Momcilovic's highly anticipated draft withdrawal announcement and where he would go from there. What's the latest that you have heard on his front, and is there a real chance that Kentucky lands, in my opinion, the best, maybe not even opinion, maybe just fact, the best three-point shooter in college basketball?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, he wants to stay in this process as long as he can to get the right decision on his stay-go decision. And then I expect this process to move pretty fast if he does withdraw from the draft ahead of that 27th deadline. And Kentucky is one of the schools, at least positionally, with the NIL that they have and the roster fit, to make a move on Momcilovic. But we've heard about all the schools involved. St. John's is the one that probably coming up more than anyone besides Kentucky. So those are the two that we're hearing a lot with Milan, and I expect his decision to be pretty close to that deadline. He's one of the guys that's most on the fringe as far as stay-go decisions.
All right, Jacob, get the heck out of here. Safe travels. Get home. Zach and I will cover it for the rest of the way. And we're producing it. Steven's still out, so we're producing on the fly. So let's see if we can. Oh,
This is easy.
Look at that!
I didn't do anything. He
Didn't
just
even
left.
have to do anything.
Here,
But
should we really try and?
Yeah, let's fix this.
Let's get something. Ooh, almost.
No. Okay. There.
How
Bang.
about that?
Bang.
How about that? Stephen who? You know.
There we go. So beautiful. Memorial Day plans. Well, before we dig into the other nonsense, as you can see, I have my swimmies already on. Look at this. Here we go. We already got.
Oh, let's get a lower shot of Jack. Yes, that's what we need. More thigh. Come on.
We already got swimmies on. We're good. Jacob, we didn't tell you guys this, but he is hungover as absolute hell right now. He was at a wedding last night, so the fact that he even made it on this podcast is just. Shout out Jacob because he's probably just seeing stars and dead relatives at this point. So, are you planning on partaking at some point today in some Memorial Day festivities?
Yeah, we might do some family stuff later in the day. Go hang out and have some burgers somewhere, but nothing too crazy. No pool plans or anything like that. At least not right now. So we're just gonna kind of take it easy. We had some fun yesterday, enjoying our day off, my fiance and I. So we'll just take it easy today. No. I don't have two kids like you, Jack, so I don't get to have all the fun and going to the pools and grilling out and doing all the fun stuff that you get to do, which I am a little bit jealous of. And that shirt you've got on right now I like that one. We're gonna have to share that one. We'll have to exchange shirts.
It's my beach shirt.
I like it.
Little palm tree action. Yeah.
Is that what that is? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Little palm trees. It's also very holy. Like you can see, it's technically a see-through shirt, which is weird, to wear out in public, especially just broadcasting to hundreds. So,
Yeah.
And
he's got a holy shirt and he's showing his thighs a second ago.
NSFW. We're going to get flagged for
nudity
after KSR after hours. All right, Milan Momcilovic, man, what would his addition mean to Kentucky if Mark Pope is able to pull that one off? It just feels like that is the missing puzzle piece to make everything else fit together in beautiful harmony.
Yeah, you do what you can at this point to make one. You guys got to make sure that Milan pulls his name out of the draft, which it still sounds like that is anyone's guess at this point. Like if you're going off all the reporting from the last few days, it sounds like Milan isn't even thinking about college right now. He's letting his agent deal with all that. And if it gets to the point where he ends up deciding not to go to the NBA, that's when he'll really start to turn his attention there. So, I mean, even if he pulls his name out of the draft, on Wednesday at, right before the deadline, it could still be a while before he makes a decision. Because then he can, if he wants to do the whole routine, he can take visits, he can do all that, do Zoom calls and everything. So that could be a whole drawn out process from there. But I mean, if you're Kentucky, you got to do whatever you can. Like you take the Tyron Stokes money you had set aside. I'm sure maybe they had to dip into some of that with getting Malachi back, but I'm sure there's still a big old bag waiting around, ham-sized bag waiting around somewhere in the Joe Kraft Center. So you have to give him that first and foremost and just say, hey, we'll do whatever we can to get you here because you are going to pretty much shore up the one. I mean, there's obviously flaws in it, but the big flaw for the team right now is currently constructed without watching any games is they just don't have a guy on the wing a proven guy on the wing, I should say, because I do think Cam Williams is important and is going to play a big role in this team. But would you rather him playing, 28 minutes a game as your starting three, or maybe 18 as your backup three, or like a guy who can be versatile? And you've got Milan Momcilovic, who's a coin flip 3-point shooter. That's the guy you want roaming the perimeter there. Like, he's not going to go in and crash and get a bunch of rebounds and play defense, but he's going to score the ball better than pretty much anybody else in the country next season in college basketball. So you want to try, and if the 5-and-5 rule comes into play, hell, maybe you can lock him down for 2 years. It sounds like they're going to, like, if your eligibility is still intact right now, at least from the NCAA, it sounds like they're going to give you that ability to get that 5th year if you're already not have graduated or exhausted your eligibility. So if that goes through, Milan could potentially fit into that criteria as well, and you can get it for 2 years. Like, think about that. I think it was the CBS Isaac Trotter said you can get him for $6 million. Like, imagine if you're Milan, you can get 2 years at Kentucky for $12 million with like an opt-out clause after 1 year to go to the NBA. Like, that'd be pretty sweet and maybe tough to turn down. So, but other teams are going to get involved. I mean, LSU might not have a roster in a couple of days, depending on how the whole international rules and eligibility rules play out. So they might have more money than thought. I don't know how it really fits with Louisville and St. John's. It feels like they've already kind of got those spots filled. So I think Kentucky's in a great spot. He's talked about Kentucky publicly and said that he can kind of see himself in that offense. But man, if you can get him, you can actually start talking yourself into being like, okay, this is a bona fide top 25 team. Let's see what happens. Like, let's roll the ball out there and actually see what happens. Because otherwise, I mean, as the team is right now, it's it's fun, it's good, but is it the team that you want to try and win the SEC and go deep in the tournament? I don't know yet, and that we haven't seen anybody play yet, so that could all change. But boy, it'd be nice to not have to worry about it by having a guy who shoots 49% from three coming in and kind of helping take control of the roster and really boost things up.
So the thing I keep hearing on Milan is Kentucky or Louisville, Kentucky or St. John's. I'm hearing it's Kentucky. I'm hearing it's Louisville. I'm hearing it's Kentucky. I'm hearing it's St. John's. Kentucky is always the consistent with this. And usually when you have that, it's a lot of public negotiating and bidding war, going back and forth with all that. And never total confidence on Louisville's side or total confidence on St. John's side. It's usually some national talking head that says that, I'm hearing it's a back and forth race between this guy and this guy. But Kentucky is the desperate school, the one with the obvious role, the one that, we know on our end that Kentucky is pushing unbelievably hard for Milan Momcilovic. Is Louisville desperately pushing for him? And Milan is a smart kid. He knows exactly what he's looking for in his last year or potentially two of college basketball, but this being his last stop hey, I'm not going to go somewhere where I'm going to be one of many and they're not going to highlight me. They're not going to draw up. Kentucky is pitching him on the Kobe Bryant role. Hey, we're going to draw up shots for you until your shoulder falls off. Why would, knowing that there's an endless bag available for him in Lexington, knowing that they are ready to put him into a highlight premier spot into the offense to say any shot that you want to highlight your game and catapult you into draft status. Look, Kobe Bryant wasn't on a draft board when he got to, he
That's
was
true. Yeah.
had two rods in his leg and was seen as kind of damaged goods. We took him and turned him into a draft pick, and he's now playing with the Phoenix Suns. Do you want to take, a guy who his draft stock is higher, but if Kobe can go from undrafted to middle of the second round, can Milan go from middle of the second round to late first in a weak draft?
In a worse draft. Yeah, worse draft.
Think of how unbelievable that pitch is on his side. Milan's not stupid, and his agent's not stupid. There's so much money on the line with all this too that I would watch this one very, very closely. Again, that's just kind of educated guess, intel based on what other schools are saying, my understanding of Kentucky's pursuit of this, but they are not going down without a fight, and they know that Milan is the perfect just shoe-in fit for what they're trying to accomplish next season. So it's going to be a busy couple of days. Hopefully it works out in Kentucky's favor, because I truly think that he's a game-changing talent, somebody who can, elevate you from a sweet, I think this is with Malachi back, it's a round of 32 pushing Sweet 16 roster with Milan stepping in there. I think it jumps to an Elite Eight, potentially Final Four. He's that level of a difference maker that can extend you a round or two. So,
do you have any guess on the timeline with him?
So, basically nobody I talk to believes he's going to stay in the draft at this point. Every conversation I've had says it's all, not if but when, but the location is what it is. And I do think that there will be more Zoom calls, but I don't think he's going to take any visits. I think he even said in an interview that he's not planning on extending the process too much. He's like, dude, I'm going to be a rising senior. I've been around the block. I know the game. I don't need to go see college campuses and be wined and dined and
no.
That's
the Office, right? Yeah,
office reference. I know that's your thing, but he doesn't need all of that to know where he's going at his next stop. He's going to, as long as the money's right, the fit makes sense, and the school of his choosing is going to put him in position to be a draft pick next season. That's all he cares about, and I think that Kentucky, if you're taking all of those things considered, I think is the best fit for him. So hopefully it works out. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, let's wrap up. While we've got people on, and I'm sure it's Memorial Day, people are just hanging out. Well, you want to take a quick down memory lane and remember the first time we watched Milan play basketball? Was that in Indy?
In Indianapolis, EYBL 2022?
Probably 2022, yeah. I think he was a junior, or maybe he was a senior then.
I interviewed
he had
him
been a junior.
I interviewed him that day. I'll go find the old KSR article.
I don't
You tell
remember
your
what I was
story.
doing. Yeah, I don't remember what I was doing like maybe a week or two ago, but I was down a rabbit hole of the Milan stuff we wrote back then, and we talked to him multiple times. Like I think Cal, like because he played for Team Hero, which is Tyler Hero's AAU team. So Chris Hero, Tyler's dad, was the coach. I think he still is the coach.
Yes.
And I believe Miles Hero, who went on to be a walk-on at South Carolina. I don't know where he is now, but Miles Hero was on that team with Milan.
April 25th, 2022.
Yeah. And then I think we talked to him later at a different EYBL setting, maybe a month or two after that. We got to talk to him again. And like Kentucky was on him for like maybe a month, it felt like. And then kind of like they never offered him. Cal never offered him. But they were at his game. Like they watched multiple of his games in that indie setting. And I remember being like, man, this guy is – both of us, I remember being like, man, this kid is our favorite player here. But I don't think he's like – he was like 2% below the threshold of being good enough for Cal to actually offer him at the time. And I guess that just never happened. But I even remember like one of our articles, it might have been yours or mine, but we were like, so who's your favorite right now? And I think he said Iowa State. And then, 6 months later, he committed to Iowa State. He had like a pretty good group of finalists. But yeah, I remember watching him being like, man, there's not a kid in this gym who is like just more of a like pure shooter than Milan Momcilovic. But I remember watching him very well, like the first time we got to see him play. And I remember talking to him as well. I think we talked to his parents. It's like his mom was there or something like that. But he was a good kid. And so I'd love to – that'd be a small world thing to come back 4 years later, over 4 years later, and we get to interview him in Lexington. That'd be fun.
A couple of Milan quotes from way back yonder.
Yeah.
I never really found a good NBA comparison for me. I like Dirk Nowitzki, Brandon Ingram, and then I want to get a little Devin Booker and Jason Tatum in my game. That will get me to the next level.
Buddy, you'd be in the NBA right now.
Iowa State, they're making me a top priority. They come down to my home, Pewaukee. They've come down 6 times. Their head coach, they're pressing hard. Shout out to Iowa State there. Let's see. What did he say about Kentucky way back in the day? Yes, I'm for sure interested. Tyler Hero went there. He's my dad coach. He's pulling for me, and he's talking to John Calipari. He was a killer back in high school. Kentucky now in the NBA. He's unbelievable. Very cool guy. The whole family is good. It's a very cool thing talking about Tyler Hero. So what a small world it would be if we
really
could
get I think Tyler was at that event too. Or maybe he was at a different one, but yeah. He was walking around.
Just wearing the most ridiculous clothes. Man,
Yes.
Every time he walks into an event, you're like,
And that was 4 years ago too.
What are you doing?
He's wearing the exact same garbage.
All right,
He's
I
fun.
have a pool to jump into and drinks to start partaking in. Happy Memorial Day to each and every one of you. Appreciate you guys tuning in on this little morning get together here on the KSR YouTube channel. A lot of intel coming on how Malachi made his decision, what's to come with Milan, some other Kentucky related nuggets, and I'm going to drop. I don't know when at some point, but we'll get those
In
dropped
between
on
beers at the pool.
at KSR Plus. Make sure you go subscribe there. Subscribe right here on the KSR YouTube channel. Like, comment. Like, we had a whole family of folks here with us this morning. So appreciate you guys joining us on short notice. But hope you guys enjoy it with your families. And we'll catch you next time. For Jack, for Zach, and for the very hungover Jacob Polachek now on the road heading back to Lexington. We will see you next time. Go Cats.